Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry. Happy Super Bowl Sunday to all the members of Steelers Nation out there. Later this evening, me and Coop are actually going to be going live for our final live watch party of the year over on our Chat Sports main YouTube channel. So make sure you go subscribe to Chat Sports on YouTube and join us at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time this evening for our live coverage of Super Bowl 59, live play-by-play, an hour of pregame coverage, extensive postgame coverage as well between the Chiefs and Eagles as we crown a new champion in the National Football League for this season. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. But today, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and, this is where we as Steelers fans want to be. And, heading into the season, bringing in Russell Wilson, bringing in Justin Fields, bringing in Patrick Queen, starting the season as well as the Steelers did, there was legitimate hope that the Steelers could have been playing today in New Orleans. But of course, that 5-game losing streak to finish out the season, all that stuff. It's just really disappointing. And with them bringing back Mike Tomlin, with them bringing back Arthur Smith, with them bringing back Tara Lawson, with a big question mark at quarterback, an offensive line with a lot of question marks, a defense that did not play well down the stretch. I can understand why a lot of people in this community don't have a lot of hope in the Pittsburgh Steelers making a Super Bowl in the near future, especially under head coach Mike Tomlin. But I do think that this team is not that far away, and I think that if they truly hit on the things that they need to hit on this offseason, they could potentially, a year from now, be in consideration to be playing in San Francisco for Super Bowl 60. And I truly believe that. I'm an optimistic person. I do believe in a lot of the talent that the Steelers have in the building. I do believe in the leadership qualities of Mike Tomlin. And then another thing to note when it comes to the Steelers here is that they're trying to build this team in a very similar way to the Eagles are building up their roster, right? The Eagles, in my opinion, have a borderline top 15 quarterback in Jalen Hurts. I don't think that he is a superstar level quarterback, but what do they do well? They run the football at an elite clip with Saquon Barkley. They win the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They play really good defense. They have a coach that maybe isn't the best overall in terms of straight up coaching, but there's no doubt about it. His players play hard for him. There's a lot of similarities between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And if the Eagles beat the Chiefs tonight, that will give the Steelers legitimate hope that their game plan and their blueprint to build this roster in the future can be a Super Bowl winning formula. So keep that in mind here, and that's a reason to maybe cheer for the Eagles tonight, because if the Eagles can beat the Chiefs, if the Steelers can get things right this offseason, they could potentially beat the Chiefs in future seasons. And if you have a good offseason this year, you might be able to put yourself in a position to do that. Now, in order to put yourself in a position to take down the Chiefs, to take down the Bills, to take down the Ravens, to take down a revamped Bengals team, you're going to have to do 5 things, in my opinion. And you're probably going to have to get probably close to 5 for 5 on these 5 things if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, if you want to contend for a Super Bowl championship and go to San Francisco next year to win a world championship. The first one is I think you have to establish a top 5 run game. All right, plain and simply, guys, in the National Football League today, it is a passing league. All right, so if you are going to be a rushing football team, in order to win and win consistently, you have to be a top 5 rushing offense. All right, you look at teams like the Eagles this year, the teams like the Ravens, the teams that the Steelers are trying to emulate and dominate on the ground. The Steelers weren't that team this year. Plain and simply, that was their plan going into the year. They didn't bring in Russell Wilson to be a pass-happy type of guy. They wanted to be able to run the football at ease, at will, and they weren't able to do that. They were arguably bottom 5 in the league as a rushing offense this year, led by Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. The offensive line and the blocking tight ends did not do a good enough job maintaining form with their run blocking schemes, and the result was at least a bottom 10 rushing offense on a team with top 5 most rushing attempts per game. So it's very obvious that Arthur Smith wants to have that Eagles-Ravens run-first type mentality, but you need to be able to establish a top 5 run game, and in order to do that, there's 2 things that need to happen. The Steelers need to get a legit star at the running back position. You look at the Eagles and the Ravens, what do they have in common? They have star-level running backs in Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry. The Steelers need their game changer, all right? And I just don't know if Najee Harris is going to be that type of player. He doesn't have the acceleration. He doesn't have the vision. I love the way that he runs, and I appreciate the way that he runs. He runs hard. He plays hard. He's got the right mentality. I just don't know if he has the big play ability to be a Saquon level back, to be a Derrick Henry level back. So there's a lot of good running backs in this year's class. The Steelers need to be extensively looking at the running backs coming into the draft, that are going to be on rookie contracts, that are young, that are dynamic, that have less tread on the tires than Najee does. And I think that they need to pair Jaylen Warren with a legit, potentially star running back heading into his rookie season. Then the second thing you need to do is you need to hit on the offensive line. Hopefully, with the Steelers moving Broderick Jones over to the left tackle, he can get more comfortable and he can become the player that the Steelers thought they were getting when they drafted him and traded up for him in the first round of the 2022 or 2023 NFL draft. And then, Troy Fautano needs to come in and he needs to stay healthy. He was flagged for knee issues before the draft. The Steelers didn't care. They took him anyways. And then, of course, really early into his rookie campaign, he has to miss the entire season because of a knee injury. So you really hope that he can stay healthy. If he does, I have no concerns about him. I love him as a player, but the injury concerns are very real when it comes to Troy Fautano. And then another big question mark is Mason McCormick. He played left guard in college. He was asked to really quickly learn the right guard position, switch over while having to adjust to the NFL game, and he struggled at times both in pass protection and in run blocking on the right side. But now that he has the full offseason to really train at right guard, hopefully he can become the player that I thought he was going to be when the Steelers drafted him. Still have a lot of belief in his physical capabilities. I had a third-round grade on him going into last year's draft, and you got him on day 3 last year. So I am a big believer in Mason McCormick. Hopefully he can make that transition over to right guard this offseason with ease. So you need to do those two things. Then also what you need to do is you need to maintain elite defensive play throughout the course of the entire season. This past year here in 2024, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Joey Porter Jr., Patrick Queen, all these guys, Deshaun Elliott, Minka, they were an elite defensive unit for a good 2/3 of this season. And then down the stretch, they really started to struggle, particularly when Cam Sutton was in there at slot corner. So they need to do a better job at communicating. Hopefully the new DB coach, Gerald Alexander, will help with the communication issues that we had last year here in Pittsburgh. And also they need to improve in the cornerback room. Joey Porter Jr., I think, needs to take a big step forward next year. And then you need to get a new outside cornerback, in my opinion. I do not want to bring back Dante Jackson. Not good enough in man coverage, in my opinion, to retain him. And then as much as I appreciate Beanie Bishop Jr., when he was out there in the early portions of the season, made some big plays, was in the right place at the right time, getting some interceptions, but he was a liability in coverage simply because he's tiny. So I think that if the Steelers can get a really, really good fix at number 2 corner in free agency, and then they can get a really good nickel corner, like maybe Mike Hilton in free agency, bring him back, I think that would be huge for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in 2025, because there's no doubt about it, the front 7 is really good. He's still got TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig will be back. Hopefully they move Keanu Benton to 5 technique and get him out of the nose. Hopefully they add a new nose tackle. Cam Hayward will be back next year. Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson will probably be the starting linebacker duo next year. So lots to be excited about on the Steelers defense. Still plenty of talent, but they need to find that consistency throughout the course of an entire season and a playoff stretch if this team, led by the run game on offense, wants to be where the Eagles are and playing for a Super Bowl a year from today. Another thing the Steelers need to do is get the quarterback right, even though the offense is going to be hopefully run through the run game, and that's their plan, and hopefully they can get the right running back, and hopefully the offensive line can do their thing next year. But you also need the quarterback that's going to be able to win you some playoff games, get you some big drives and big moments, make some big plays in some big moments. And, it's going to be interesting to see who they decide to go with that quarterback. Right now, there is a ton of speculation and reports out there about what the Steelers are going to do at quarterback. Some people say there's no way Russell Wilson's coming back. Some people say he's still in consideration. Some people say the Steelers are definitely bringing back Justin Fields. Some people sound more unsure about that. Matthew Stafford, who knows what's going to happen with him this offseason. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's going to hit the open market. And there's certainly some speculation about him going to the Steelers. Sam Darnold's going to be available. I think anybody right now saying that they know for sure what's going to happen at the quarterback position is lying to you. All right, I don't think the Steelers know exactly what's going to happen, because I think there's a lot of factors. There's playability, there's play style, there's fit with the offense, there's contract, there's all these different things that come into play when it comes to the quarterback position. But if the Steelers get it right right and they bring in the right quarterback to be their starting QB in 2025, that's going to help things along, help them win playoff games, all these different things. I do think, it's going to be interesting to see if they go with Justin Fields, because even though he's got the highest upside of arguably anybody else out there that they could get, he also didn't play stellar football last year. And honestly, I know a lot of people say he played better as the season went on. I actually think it was the opposite. I think the Raiders game, he got bailed out with a lot of special teams plays, interceptions, short fields, and he missed a lot of throws in that game. The Cowboys game was not a very good game. The first half of the Indianapolis Colts game wasn't very good, and honestly, the best game that he played was against the Chargers in Week 3. So I actually think he took his best performance there in Week 3 and continuously got worse as the final weeks went on, which is why the Steelers ended up going with Russell Wilson. So I certainly see the potential with Justin Fields, but he's never been to the playoffs. And if you know anything about first-time playoff performers, just look at Sam Darnold this past year. They usually don't play very well, outside of some rare people like Russell Wilson, Jaden Daniels, some really special people. But if the Steelers legitimately want to try to get a Super Bowl in 2025, they may need to go the veteran route. If they can get Matthew Stafford, if they can maybe get Aaron Rodgers, Sam Darnold, after he got his first playoff action last year. Russell Wilson, if they want to bring him back. I don't know the exact answer, and I can't give you all the answers right now of what the Steelers are going to do, but I know if they want to win a Super Bowl, they got to get the quarterback position right. Then another position that they need to get right, and this is number 5, guys, is the final thing they need to do right, is get the wide receiver position right. Because, we've talked about the run game, we've talked about the quarterback position. Last year they didn't give Russell Wilson enough help at wide receiver. All right, they just didn't. And George Pickens, when he went away with his injury, that's really when the collapse offensively really started to begin. And then even when Pickens got back, he wasn't the same, and the offense wasn't the same. So I think that at the wide receiver position, the question marks that are going to be answered: will George Pickens be back next year, or will they trade him? What exactly are they going to do with him? Are they going to give him that extension, or is he going to request a trade? We're going to see what happens with GP. Believe in his talent a lot, but he's going to have to really grow up and fast here, heading into his 4th year, if he wants to be the bona fide number 1 receiver for this team in the future, because he's going to be asked to really ascend to a leadership role in that group. And, I think that a lot of the reports out of Pittsburgh kind of contradict him being a true leader in the locker room. So if they do move on from him, you do have to replace him at number 1 receiver. There are some guys out there that I would like to get. T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson are guys that could be made available via trade. Who knows who else could be made available? But then you also need to get a legit number 2 receiver. All right, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, those guys are not going to be able to get the job done for you, in my opinion. So you'd have to trade for a guy like Cooper Kupp, a guy like Deebo Samuel. You'd have to spend a high draft pick on somebody that's ready to start right away. So I think that you need to get the number 1, number 2 wide receiver positions right. I think Calvin is a good number 3. I think Roman Wilson, heading into his 2nd year, can be a really good slot technician as a kind of a number 4 wide receiver option. So you just need to solidify what your number 1 and number 2 receiving options are going to be at wide receiver. And if the Steelers can do these 5 things, man, they get the right running back, the offensive line hits, the defense stays, maintains their elite production throughout the course of an entire season, they get the quarterback right, and then they figure out the wide receiver 1 and 2 positions. I think, that this is a team that could make the Super Bowl in San Francisco next season. And, it's a lot of things to get right. There's going to be a lot of moves that need to be made by GM Omar Khan and head coach Mike Tomlin. And, you need to tread carefully and you need to tread correctly here if you want to be competing for a Super Bowl next year against teams like the Chiefs, against teams like the Ravens, against teams like Baltimore. All right. There's a lot of really good players and a lot of really good teams and a lot of really good quarterbacks in the AFC today. So if the Steelers want to be competitive with the blueprint that they have laid out as a run-first, defense-first kind of team, you're going to have to be elite both on defense and in the run game. You're going to have a quarterback that's capable of keeping a defense honest and protect the football. And you got to give that quarterback proper weapons, which they didn't do for Russell Wilson last year. So if they do those 5 things, guys, I think there's genuine hope. And throughout the course of the offseason here, we are going to have you guys covered with the latest quarterback rumors throughout this entire saga until they make a decision at that position. We're going to let you guys know everything that they're doing in free agency and in the draft. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be putting out the latest Steelers quarterback rumors. There is a ton to talk about. Matthew Stafford, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers. There's a ton of Steelers quarterback rumors out there that I want to get to tomorrow morning. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button. Coop and I will be back live on Steelers Talk tomorrow, starting at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, our normal time. And then also tonight, Super Bowl 59, Coop and I have our final live watch party of the year. So if you guys want to come kick it with us one last time here for the 2024-2025 NFL season, you guys can subscribe to the main Chat Sports YouTube channel and join us at 5:30 tonight where we crown an NFL champion. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's program. I will see you guys later. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.